forget about peak oil. We haven't even reached peak coal yet. This is the title of an article from David Blackmon in the Forbes.com. It's a pleasure to have David Blackmon, principal at DB Energy Advisors. Good morning, David.
Good morning. Good morning, Armando. Thank you for having me.
Where are you? Are you in Houston?
I am. I used to be in Houston. I was there for 14 years, but we live near Fort Worth now, in a small town in Texas.
Near Dallas, no?
Yes, about 30 miles from Dallas. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm in Rio de Janeiro today. Okay.
Oh, okay.
David,
Beautiful.
please. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. A little bit dangerous. We do not have total security here now,
Right,
but
right.
it's good. It's a good city. David, in your article, I kept that we are still in a long growth for oil and gas and coal energies,
Yes.
not for renewables and alternatives. What does it mean exactly?
Well, I mean, of course, we're having growth in renewables and alternatives as well, but I think, we don't have great reporting of actual facts about our energy situation globally in our news media in the US and probably internationally as well. Everyone is so caught up in the rhetoric around renewables and electric vehicles and the energy transition that we tend to get lost or lose track of what the reality actually is. And our reality is that all forms of energy, whether it's fossil fuels or renewables or whatever it is, are going to have to grow for the foreseeable future because the world's population continues to grow. All of this wonderful new technology that we all have uses increasing amounts of energy. We have rising demand for energy all across the globe. And that demand cannot be met by renewables alone. It just can't. And one of the, and I'll stop here in a second, but one of the most compelling things, charts I've seen recently, was a chart that was put out by an international study that was conducted early this year that showed that we've invested in the past 20 years almost $20 trillion subsidizing, this is global numbers, $20 trillion subsidizing the build out of renewable energy. And its percentage share or fossil fuels percentage share of the total energy mix has stayed exactly the same throughout this century. We used about 80% of our energy needs were met by fossil fuels in the year 2001, and they still meet about 80% of our energy needs today. And that's despite trillions of dollars of investment in renewables. So it just tells you that the growth is so dramatic and it's not slowing down, it's speeding up, that we're going to continue to need more and more fossil fuels in the future.
So the peak oil and peak coal are unpredictable today. We cannot see the point. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we see people trying to predict peak oil. I mean, I've had running arguments with some people about peak oil for really 10, 12 years now. They used to say, well, we've reached peak oil production, that there's no more oil to be found, but the industry just continues to find more and more oil because we're really just getting started finding oil, frankly. And so about 7 or 8 years ago, they switched to this theory that, well, we're about to reach peak global demand for oil. And so that's been the theory in recent years. And so they'll pick a year and say, well, we're going to reach it by 2020. Well, we didn't. And we'll reach it by 2023. We won't. And now that I think the last one I saw says, well, we're going to reach peak oil demand by 2025. No, we're not. We're not going to. And we haven't even, the point of my article that you quoted from early on is that we haven't even reached peak coal yet. Okay. We're still expanding the use of coal in globally. And so it's just pie in the sky kind of stuff that most people don't want to think about from a critical nature.
And the United States is reducing the internal production and do
Of
not allow
coal? Yes.
oil, I suppose, is the same, no? It's
Well, we
reducing.
did, last year because of the COVID pandemic, we did lose about initially really over 2 million barrels a day. Now that's come back to some extent, but we're still well below about a million barrels a day below where we were in December of 2019 in terms of total production. And that's due to the pandemic. Um, and companies now are being very disciplined about not over drilling because they got in a lot of trouble with the bankers and private equity companies about drilling too much. And so companies in the US have been very disciplined this year. We've increased production very slowly this year, but it's going back up.
And in terms of geopolitics, I mean, the Canada pipeline, XL, I suppose the name, was stopped.
Keystone XL, yeah.
Yeah. The German Russia pipeline is allowed to bring the gas from there.
Right.
And the federal, let's see, new ventures in the United States for oil exploration are stopped. So,
well, yes, yeah.
This set of actions can impact the price and the results of production renewables.
Oh, yes, certainly it can, and it has. The Biden administration has been, doing what they can to slow oil production in the United States, but the ultimate irony outcome of that happened yesterday when President Biden sent a demand to the OPEC plus countries that they produce more oil. Okay, so his administration is trying to shut down the industry in the United States or slow it down. They can't really shut it down. But at the same time, because gasoline prices have gone through the roof very predictably, as I predicted a year ago they would if Biden got elected. So now he's worried about that because it's impacting him politically. And so he doesn't ask US producers to produce more. He asks Saudi Arabia and OPEC to produce more.
Import more. Yeah, import more
right.
from.
Yeah, it's insane. It's nuts because we can produce more in the United States, as we have seen.
And nowadays, the production is almost 15 million barrels a day, or
we could. Yes, in terms of our production in the U.S., potentially we could produce 15 million. Right now, we're producing somewhat right around 11 million barrels a day.
And the consumption is 20.
Yes, the consumption is 20. And so, what Biden is essentially asking OPEC to do is increase imports into the United States and, making us more dependent on other sources of oil, and that's fine. We've been there before.
Brazil, we have 2 million and a half million barrels a day in terms of consumption. The production is more. It's 3 something. We are exporting 1 million barrels a day.
Yes, Brazil has been a boom area, particularly the offshore in Brazil, but even onshore there has tremendous resources.
Is it possible to see something coming in terms of technology or new source that can impact this linear growth of renewables and alternatives?
Well, yes, and I've done a lot of research and writing about that space this year. The renewable, I'm not anti-renewables. I know some people think I am. I'm really not. But what I see and what I write a lot about is the limits to its growth. And it's due to technology. It's due to ongoing reliance on lithium ion battery technology. There are companies engaged in new technology development that's going to, dramatically improve that battery technology. But the problem is it's so reliant on the critical minerals, lithium and cobalt and nickel, that you have to make those batteries. And if we're, the governments around the world are talking about transitioning to renewables by 2030. Well, you're going to have 1,000% increase in demand for those minerals that are not currently being produced in anywhere near those quantities and can't be by 2030. Okay, so those all renewable by 2030 goals are just, they're fantasies. They can't physically happen because of that. So what could really transform it all, though, would be a completely new battery technology that doesn't rely on those critical minerals. I know companies are working on that, and there's a lot of research and development money being spent in that area. So if you do have a sea change in technology, then you could start talking about replacing fossil fuels, for example, in power generation. Because it's not just electric vehicles that need the batteries. Right now, it's power generation, wind and solar. You can't store the energy they produce right now adequately to replace natural gas or coal-fired power plants. And so that's the real thing, is that battery technology has to be dramatically improved.
There are 2 points that you mentioned that piqued my attention. The first, that the old energy is not made only by electricity, batteries. We need different kind of demands. And the second point is that the renewables, solar and wind that you mentioned, are not stable, depends on several fluctuations of production. So we need something that can support the contingency of those energies.
That's right. And you have to be able to, the big problem, of course, is the sun only shines half the day and the wind only blows really adequately a few hours in any given day on average. And you have to be able to somehow store that power that gets generated when the wind's blowing and the sun's shining, so that overnight you can still have electricity being provided by those sources. And right now that technology just does not exist. You see a lot of misinformation in the news media claiming that it does, but I can assure you it doesn't.
Yeah, it's the same in Brazil. It's not only in the United States. Here we have this pressure. We need something new and the solution, but it's not available yet. So the technology and the source are not available.
But I'm excited. I will say I'm very excited about the potential for the future. I did a facility tour yesterday in Austin, Texas, of a company that's working on a technology that will dramatically improve not just the ability to extract lithium out of brine, salt water, but also they're working on a solid state lithium ion battery technology that would improve its ability to store energy 100-fold if they can, get it funded and make it commercial. But again, commercialization of those kinds of technology doesn't happen overnight. It takes years for it to happen. And so what I'm saying is, I think in the future, we will get to a renewable energy mix where renewables do take more of the energy mix. But it's not going to happen by 2030. Maybe by 2050, it might.
Yeah.
Because of the investments involved and the scale of our demands.
And the impact in terms of temperature and climate in the world.
Right.
Disasters. We really have this challenge to solve.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a scientist at all, and so I don't really know, if we can really avoid this temperature rise. When you read the Paris Accords, for example, if every country met every goal under the Paris Accord, they admit in the small print there towards the end that it would only result in a 0.2 degree lowering of that temperature rise. So even doing that, their own scientists admit, isn't going to have a truly significant impact. So, whether all this can really avoid that temperature increase seems kind of problematic to me.
That's right. David, fantastic. You brought for us very good thoughts, and thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I hope your listeners enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day and good summer.
You too. And please, let's continue a dialogue. I love having, discussion. I mean, not Doesn't even have to be on the podcast, but just, I
Perfect.
enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, let's plan different ones in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Bye-bye.